So I'm going to start going through our wastewater or sewage treatment. So we're going to start over here in the corner of your document that says primary. So I'm going to start with like a grayish color. So over here we've got the wastewater from homes and businesses. It could also be from industry. And this enters, I'm going to highlight this, all the things that are part of the primary treatment. So we split this into three parts. So we have primary treatment. So when we get into primary treatment, the first thing we encounter is a screen. So right in here, we have what's called a bar screen, which is going to filter out any large debris. So it could be trash or toys or sticks or anything that can't be broken up later down. So we have a screen to capture large objects. Examples of that would be trash. It could be sticks that might get washed into your wastewater system. It could be toys that get accidentally flushed down the toilet. So this incoming liquid goes in here and enters down this way. So all of that trash that gets pulled out goes to a landfill. Anything captured by the bar screen. And then we come to the next part of primary treatment in the communitor. I'm going to highlight that. Highlight communitor, I'm going to highlight screen because these are part of the primary process. So in here we have, this is not a great drawing of this, but we have blades. They're going to grind up the wastewater. These are blades. They're terrible blades, but they grind up those solids into smaller pieces. Okay, so we're continuing on our path until we get here to what's called the grit chamber. Again, this is part of primary treatment. So in the grit chamber, small solids sink to the bottom. So I'm going to use this sparkly color for this. So down here you get all your solids. And the idea is the solids will sink to the bottom and the cleaner water without all the particulates in it will stay up at the top. So all of these small solids that sink to the bottom also go to a landfill. So we have this continues on to our last part of primary treatment to a step called the clarifier. So if you've ever heard of clarified butter, we have a clarifier. And what happens here is we've got, let's go back to our solids. So we get solids that come down here. It's basically like a settling tank. So we get solids down here. We get, I'm going to put it in yellow up here. We get fats and oils that are lighter than the water, so they're less dense. They end up at the top. It's up here. And then in the middle, we get what's hopefully cleaner water. So we have what's called a flocking agent that gets added, which helps separate out the fats and the solids. So the fats, the oils, any grease that might be in here float. These all go to the landfill. And then this process, the flocking agent, the flocculation, it causes small particles to clump up and sink to the bottom. So to clump and sink, and then the water in the middle continues. On to the next step. So I'm going to highlight this again in yellow because this is all part of our primary process. And you'll notice in the primary process, this whole process uses biological methods to treat the water. So there's no chemicals added here. It's just using, or no, I lied, it's not biological, it's physical. Sorry, it's using physical because we're physically separating out the process through the what's in the wastewater with the bar screen and through the process of letting it settle out. So I'm going to follow these solids first. So I'm going to choose a new highlighting color. Let's go with orange this time. So now we're going to enter secondary treatment. And secondary treatment is biological. So we're going to follow this in two different ways because part of secondary treatment is what happens to this raw sludge. So going down this is raw sludge. So this is those, all these particles, all those small solids that got separated out with the flocking agent, all go down here to a separate tank. So when we get in here, we have this big tank, looks like this. It's going to move the sludge around. And let's choose a different color. And we've got sludge treatment. So we can't just get rid of that. We have to treat it. Make this thinner to read. Okay, so this is part of secondary. That looks terrible together. So what we call biosolids, or the sludge, is pressed into these cakes and then sent to farms. And they can use this as fertilizer for crops that won't become food. So the key is it's non-food crop fertilizer. So this could be used for crops that become ethanol. But I want to note that there's a drawback here. They're high in heavy metals because they can't get rid of that. Which is why we don't use this on food crops. And then when they're all done, they enter, they get put on a truck and taken to the farms. So let's jump back over to what happens to our wastewater. So we've got what's considered more closely similar to water. Enters the aeration tank. So we enter the aeration tank. So again, I should have picked better colors because that looks terrible. But the aeration tank, actually let's use silver, uses air pushed up through this water to activate bacteria that's going to break down any remaining particles. So the oxygen and bacteria digest the organic waste. So any remaining organic material gets eaten by the bacteria. So you want to add oxygen in here. So there's an air compressor to add in oxygen because more oxygen, you get faster, more oxygen, you get faster breakdown. Okay, so now we've gone through aeration and our freshly aerated water is going to head on over here to another clarifier. But this step is a little bit different. So in this step, you're going to let the digested waste and any dead bacteria settle out. So those are going to sink to the bottom, and you're going to notice this is called activated sludge. So if we have this all settles out down here and gets pumped to that same sludge treatment as from the previous clarifier step. So that material is all going to go that way. And again, we're going to have this water in here that's going to head down this way. So we're going to let's choose a new color. Let's go for green. Okay, so now we're going to enter into the steps of tertiary treatment. So we can just highlight this in gray. So we've got tertiary, the third level of treatment. So in the tertiary treatment over here, we get a variety of options. So this depends on what exactly is in your wastewater. So it's based on the need of the community. So tertiary. I don't like that. Let's use a lighter color. Okay, so examples of tertiary treatment is an extra step to remove excess nitrogen and phosphorus, or even salt that may be high in your water. And we do this by using sand or gravel. They also use activated charcoal, or you can even use reverse osmosis to clean that water. So part of your water can come this way, depending on what you need, and head into this process to remove the nitrogen or phosphorus. And then from there, it enters this tank. So in some cases, you can skip this tertiary step, but they all end with the same last step of disinfection. So let's use purple. So this is disinfection. So no matter what, you need to put this through a step to kill any pathogens. So you can't release pathogens in your wastewater. So you can use chlorine. You can use UV light. And in some places, they can also use ozone. So our water goes through the disinfection process and ends up in a body of water. So here, for us, that ends up in the Connecticut River. So this wastewater now is called effluent. And what happens to our effluent is it ends up in the river, in a lake, or an ocean. Important to know about this whole process is it does not remove any pharmaceuticals. So that's definitely a concern. And it doesn't remove microplastics. Those are too small, and there's just no process in our system. But I want to talk about one more cool thing that we can do after our wastewater has been disinfected, and that is to take it down here to a process called reclaimed water, or reclamation. So in this reclaimed water, you can use it for landscaping or recharging your aquifers. This is popular out west. Due to the issue with the microplastics and the pharmaceuticals, there's some debate on whether or not you should be using this to consume. But this is our wastewater treatment. So we had physical treatment, we have biological treatment, and then last but not least, our tertiary is a more advanced treatment. That is what happens when you